Exposed. The life-changing truth behind why water was banned in her restaurant for 10 years Inc. The sweltering summer sun poured through the windows of Sarah's diner, blanketing the room in a heat that clung to skin and set conversations aflame. The sound of sizzling bacon and laughter filled the air, but whispering currents of concern swept through like an unexpected storm. Patrons leaned in close, exchanging fearful glances. "Did you hear? There's something wrong with the water supply." Panic lay thick on their tongues. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach as memories crashed down like tidal waves. Her father, a firefighter with a heart of gold, lost to a cruel illness, courtesy of tainted water. The pain surged through her, forcing her to lean against the counter, the only barrier between her heart and the depths of despair. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly as she filled a cup destined for old Mr. Hastings, a steady fixture at the diner. Yet behind her smile lay a weight, one that twisted and turned, threatening to spill out. She finally stood before her loyal customers, conviction fueling her resolve. "I can't serve water here, not now. For the next 10 years, we'll avoid it completely." The room fell silent, eyes wide, but support blossomed like spring flowers. Her bravery felt like a bond, a promise of safety. Months turned into years, and the diner became a haven, a warm embrace for those weary of fresh troubles. But the initial unity faltered, and whispers grew louder. Where once they rallied behind her, skepticism began to gnaw like moths on the town's fabric. At family reunions held at the diner, laughter sprinkled with unease echoed. Conversations turned electric with secrets. Emma, now a buckling teenager, felt smothered beneath her mother's zealous grip disguised as protection. "You don't trust me," Emma shouted, tears brightening her eyes like blue flames. The gulf between mother and daughter widened, and the ban on water morphed into a symbol of something deeper, of love that had become suffocatingly tangled. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Days dragged on like molasses as sparks of division grew, local leaders pitting against each other, casting Sarah as the irrational sentinel of a stifling past. An ambitious journalist uncovered the diner's story, glory intertwined with struggle. Arguments rattled the diner's windows, sides formed like battle lines. "You're stuck in the dark, Sarah," someone yelled, and another chimed in, "It's time to let go." Each clash echoed like a thunderclap, imploding the once cohesive community. Then came that fateful night. Voices pitched high, emotions flickering dangerously. Sarah stood frozen, her heart beating like a drum as she realized the crack beneath their feet ran deeper than water. She faced an ultimatum: hold on or let go. In that tense silence, as hope tangled with fear, a voice rang out from the crowd. "What if the water isn't the real problem?" The question resonated in the air, piercing through the chaos and leaving Maplewood and Sarah hanging on the brink of something new. What would they decide? What would she decide? The question lingered, hanging heavy in the air. Eyes shifted from the speaker to Sarah, faces a tapestry of confusion and expectation. "What if the water isn't the real problem?" The words rolled like thunder, igniting a fire of uncertainty in Sarah's heart. Was she clinging to a fear that had outlived its purpose? Silence wrapped around the diner like a thick fog, thick with the scent of grease and worry. Sarah felt the weight of 100 glances, all questioning her commitment, her judgment. Couldn't they see she was trying to protect them? But a flicker of doubt crackled within her. What if this was less about safety and more about fear? Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, her teenage face a mix of defiance and anguish. "Mom," she called out, her voice piercing through the murmur. "Are you really ready to face this?" There was a strength in her tone that caught even Sarah off guard. It was more than just a daughter's plea. It was a challenge. "I am doing this for you," Sarah replied, her voice shaking, but she felt her resolve wavering. The diner, once a sanctuary, was transforming into an arena of confrontation. Patrons looked to her for leadership, yet she felt no stronger than a reed swaying in the wind. The man who posed the question stepped closer, his voice steady but soft. Sarah, it's been 10 years. Sometimes holding on means letting go. If we only fear the water, we miss the chance to swim. His words were edged with kindness, but they cut deep, revealing the intricate knots of fear and love tying Sarah to her decision. Letting go, the phrase echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. How long had she let the past dictate her choices? Did she even know who she was outside of this fear? The crowd murmured in agreement, nods of understanding weaving through the room. She could see the faces' smiles slipped from their lips, replaced by contemplation. Each looked at her like a beacon of hope, yet also as the one blocking their path to freedom. Maybe it's time, Emma whispered, barely audible but pregnant with emotion. Time to trust, Mom. In you and in us. Suddenly, the room felt alive. Shifts in energy danced through the air. Apprehension mingled with newfound courage. Sarah glanced at Emma, her eyes filling with tears, as she realized the implications of her daughter's choice. It was no longer about the water. It was about the heart of their community and family. As attention returned to her, Sarah knew she had to respond. Her voice, once a quiver, found strength. I want safety for all of you, but I see now that safety means trust too. She swallowed, emotions knotting in her throat. I think we need to face this together. It's time. A collective gasp swept through the diner. Trepidation flickered, but underneath it blossomed an expanse of hope. What would that mean for the town? Would they lift the ban? As the night air thickened with possibility, Sarah caught Emma's eye. In that brief exchange, they shared a silent promise: no matter how turbulent the waters might become, they would navigate them together. But as she spoke, a familiar voice came from the back, cutting through her resolve. But what happens if the truth is worse than we imagine? The unspoken question left everyone suspended in uncertainty, grappling with the shadows of fear that still loomed large. The murmurs in the diner grew louder, rising like a wave crashing against a rocky shore. Sarah could feel the tension in the air, an invisible thread connecting each person's fear and desire for truth. She glanced at Emma, her daughter's face a mix of concern and defiance, as if she were holding the weight of that question between them. What if the truth is worse than we imagine? The voice from the back echoed again, sharper this time. It came from Tom, a longtime resident and someone they'd all seen as a pillar of strength. Now he looked vulnerable, maybe even frightened. Tom, Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly. She held her hands up as if trying to quiet a growing storm. I can't promise what we'll find, but living in fear? That's not living. Sent it? Tom countered, and the anguish in his tone struck a chord within the diners. We've been safe because we've been cautious. What if facing the truth brings chaos instead? Chaos. The word hung heavily in the air, a palpable object that outstripped reason. Sarah's heart raced. The truth had that power, didn't it? A glimmer of memory flared within her, the day 10 years back when everything changed. The news reports, the accusations, the swift disbelief that followed. Those were moments she had tried so hard to bury. Emma stepped forward, her teenage courage shining through. What's worse is staying stuck like this. What's worse is not knowing, she asserted, her voice clear and steady. Mom, we have to face it. The water ban, it's not just about what we're pouring into the glass. It's everything around us. Sarah took a deep breath, a wave of calm washing over her. Emma understood the enormity of this moment. It wasn't just about water. It was about reopening the town to possibility, to change. Her heart swelled with a blend of pride and fear. Her daughter was right. Okay, Sarah said, the word feeling like a small but mighty spark. Let us begin. Who's with us? A ripple of uncertainty danced across the crowd, but it was swiftly followed by a wave of resolve. Hands began to raise, some hesitantly, others eagerly, until the entire room was alive with movement, a pulsating heartbeat of community, desire for truth. Together, she affirmed, hearing the strains of hope fluttering in the diner's voices. We face it together. A round of murmurs filled the diner, but this time they were laced with determination. Sarah could see the light returning to their eyes, as if they had just remembered a hidden part of themselves, the strength within their community that had lain dormant for far too long. Let us meet at the town hall tomorrow, she suggested. We'll research the history. We'll seek answers, whatever they may be. The crowd nodded, energized. Yet, beneath that excitement lay a current of anxiety. Was it really going to be that simple? As they began to disperse, a woman named Julia tugged gently at Sarah's sleeve. What if something terrible happened back then? She questioned. Then we'll confront it. We have to, Sarah replied, her voice steady, though her stomach twisted at the thought. That was the risk they were all facing. The acknowledgement that some truths could cut deeper than others. Just as they began to exit, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, followed by a low growl. Sarah froze, her heart pounding. What was that? An uneasy silence settled over the diner, every pair of eyes drawn back to the swinging kitchen doors. Something was lurking inside, an uninvited guest angling for attention. And with that surge of dread, Sarah knew the real question was just beginning to unfold. The tension thickened in the diner, wrapping everyone in a tight embrace of uncertainty. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, the sound echoing in her ears. She took a cautious step forward, instinctively wanting to shield Emma from whatever lay beyond the kitchen doors. Stay here, Sarah whispered, though the authority in her tone wavered as she spoke. Emma shook her head, determination stealing her spine. I'm not going anywhere, Mom. We're in this together. The growl grew louder, almost primal, and a sudden wave of adrenaline pushed Sarah to move. She and Emma crept closer to the kitchen, the eyes of the remaining diners glued to them, barely breathing. Tom? Sarah called, hoping it was just a mistake, a pot tipping over, or perhaps a cat that had wandered in. But her voice felt small against the grip of unease crushing the room. Could be raccoons again, murmured a man from the back, but the way his voice trembled told another story. Fear was contagious, and it spread through the diner like wildfire. The growl ceased, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Sarah took a deep breath, her mind racing. What could it be? Did something come in while they weren't looking? Before she could think further, the kitchen doors swung open with a force that sent a jar of pickles crashing to the floor. There stood Leo, the diner's cook, his face pale and eyes wide. It's not just the food, he gasped, his voice hoarse. We need to leave. Now. What are you talking about? Sarah pressed, her anxiety clawing at her. She could sense a storm brewing, dark and unpredictable. But before he could respond, the growl returned, louder and more menacing. It seemed to emanate from behind Leo, who stepped aside as something huge surged forward into the diner. A massive creature, hair matted and eyes gleaming with a wild hunger, lunged into the light. The diners shrieked, instinctively scattering and retreating to the furthest corners. Everyone, get out, now, Sarah shouted, gripping Emma's arm tightly as they bolted towards the exit. The chaos swallowed their movements, sound blurring into panic and confusion. A wave of instinct propelled Sarah and Emma through the door as the creature thundered closer, chaos flooding the diner. Once outside, they paused, gasping for air beneath the dim evening sky. The harsh light from the diner illuminated the terrified faces of their friends and neighbors. What just happened? Emma panted, breathless and wide-eyed. I don't know, Sarah exclaimed, looking over the crowd, her mind racing. That thing, what was it? I don't care. We have to call for help, Julia shouted. This isn't just about the water ban anymore. We might be in real danger. Sarah felt the weight of the realization settle over her. The truth they were about to unearth was already proving to be more than they had bargained for. But they couldn't back down now. We face it together, she echoed her earlier promise, though the tremor in her voice spoke volumes of uncertainty. We get to the bottom of this. For all of us. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd even as their eyes remained glued to the door, terrified of what lay inside. As Sarah turned back to the diner, she caught a glimpse of Leo, peering out hesitantly from behind the door. "Wait," he called. "It's not gone and it knows something. Something about the water." He had struck a nerve deep within Sarah. The living had connected with the past in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. What truth lurked behind that monstrous growl? With a newfound urgency, Sarah locked eyes with Emma, who nodded, fear mixed with fierce determination. They were not just fighting for answers anymore. They were fighting for their lives. What truth awaited them behind those kitchen doors? And what would happen if they didn't face it together? The air was thick with dread, buzzing like static before a storm. Thoughts swirled in Sarah's mind as adrenaline surged through her veins. "We can't just stand here," she insisted, her voice shaking, but resolute. "Leo, what do you know? Why do you think it's connected to the water?" Leo's eyes darted nervously between the growing crowd and the open kitchen doors. "I overheard things. People who worked here years ago, things about the well, and what we thought was just an old wives' tale." His breath hitched. "They said it was cursed, that when the water was tainted, the creature would awaken." "What creature?" Emma asked sharply, her grip tightening on Sarah's hand. "It's not a story." Leo's plea pierced the air. "I saw it once, a glimpse before I joined the diner. They didn't want anyone knowing. They thought if they just ignored it, it would go away. But it's back and it knows. It knows we've been using that water." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. As fear weaved through their hearts, it mingled with an unsettling curiosity. "What are you saying?" Julia interjected, her voice trembling. "You expect us to believe a tale about a monster? Believe what you want." Leo spat, frustration pooling in his eyes. "But I'm not the only one in danger. It's been waiting, hungry for something. It wants restitution." The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting around, as if expecting the creature to leap out from the shadows. Sarah felt the collective anxiety, a wave of energy stirring among them. "We can't waste time," she said, pulling Leo closer. "What do we need to do?" "Find the source," he replied urgently. "The water isn't just in the diner. Comes from the well. If we can stop whatever's causing this, we might just put it back to sleep." "Might?" Emma's voice cut through the tension, filled with both fear and resolve. "It's risky," Leo acknowledged, a somber weight to his words. "But it's the only chance we have. We can't let it roam free." Sarah felt her heart pound in her chest as she scanned the crowd. "Who's with us?" Murmurs of agreement flashed between the diners, but uncertainty hung heavily in the air. A few stepped back, drawing in breaths of fear, while others moved forward, emboldened by the idea of facing this unknown threat together. "I'll go," prompted Julia, a flicker of determination igniting her features. "I don't want anything happening to my kids, my home, none of us." The group nodded slowly, their spirits rising as they rallied behind Julia's courage. Sarah's heart warmed at the sight. "Together," she insisted again, squeezing Emma's hand. "We're going to confront this thing, whatever it is." As they headed toward the parking lot, the shadows seemed to lengthen around them, darkness closing in on the diner. Each step felt heavier than the last, a reminder of what lay ahead. They reached their cars, but just as they prepared to leave, the growl echoed again. This time, it sounded closer, more powerful, like a monstrous heartbeat pulsing through the night. "Get in," Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the thick tension. They scrambled into their vehicles, eyes forward and minds racing. What had they awakened? They were stepping into a world of unseen dangers with only their hope and resolve to guide them. As Sarah gripped the steering wheel, she glanced back at Emma, who was staring wide-eyed at the trees lining the road. "What if we can't stop it?" Emma whispered, a nervous edge creeping into her tone. "We have to try," Sarah replied, her heart pounding in time with the growl. "If we don't, we may lose everything." The group drove off, each vehicle veering into darkness, not knowing what awaited them at the well. As they approached the old site, Sarah wondered, could they truly fight what had been hidden for so long, and would they return home or become part of the very myth they sought to conquer? What awaited them at the water's edge could change everything again. The headlights pierced through the dense foliage as Sarah drove further into the woods. The only sound punctuating the stillness was the thud of her heartbeat in her ears. She could feel the tension radiating from the others in the car, like static electricity before a storm. The familiar gravel road twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the unknown. "Make a left ahead," Leo instructed, his voice strained with urgency. "The well is just off the main path." With a sharp turn, Sarah felt the weight of gravity pull, a sharp breath escaping her lips as the tires skimmed the edge of the dirt. Emma clutched the armrest tightly, her knuckles white. What if that growl is it? What if it means it's already there? The fear in her voice was palpable. "It doesn't matter," Julia replied, her tone steady but low. "We have to know. How can we protect our families if we don't face this?" As they drove on, the trees loomed larger, casting ominous shadows that danced across the windshield like specters keeping watch. When they finally spotted the clearing, the headlights illuminated the old well, its stones crumbled and overgrown with weeds. A shiver crept down Sarah's spine. The sight was both eerie and captivating, like something pulled from the pages of a ghost story. They parked their cars, adrenaline surging in the tight confines of the vehicle, and Sarah's hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. "Okay, here we go," she said, forcing resolve into her voice. "Everyone out." They spilled from the cars, a mix of shaky breaths and hushed whispers, coming together in a tight huddle beside the well. The smell of damp earth rose up around them, the air heavy with the scent of rain-soaked ground. Leo stepped forward, eyes scanning the perimeter. "This is it. If there's something to find, it'll be here. We need to look for anything unusual." "Like what?" Emma asked, peering nervously into the dark well. "Anything," Leo said, frustration creeping into his voice. "Scratches on the stone, unusual markings. This well held secrets once and they've likely come back." With shared glances, they fanned out, examining their surroundings. Sarah's heart raced as she peered into the well, the darkness seeming to swell and pulse with an energy of its own. She spotted something glimmering at the bottom, but the light was far too dim to make out what it was. "Is that—" Sarah began, but the sudden rustle of leaves silenced her, drawing everyone's attention. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and dark, its silhouette blending with the night. It was almost indistinguishable from the trees. Fear surged within Sarah's chest as heartbeats quickened among her friends. "What is that?" Julia gasped, taking a cautious step back. "Don't move," Leo shouted, instinctively stepping in front of them. "Could be the creature." As they held their breath, the figure stepped closer, revealing itself. It was not the creature they feared, but a man disheveled, wild-eyed, and carrying a weathered backpack. "You shouldn't be here," he warned, voice strained and desperate. "You'll wake it up." Nerves twisted in Sarah's stomach. "Wake what up?" she demanded, a mixture of fear and frustration spilling into her voice. With a shaky breath, the man took another step closer, his eyes darting between them. "The curse. It's not just a story," he whispered, urgency flooding his words. "You don't know what you've unleashed." Dread seeped back in as realization settled heavily on their shoulders. What had they stumbled into? "What do you mean?" "We need to know how to stop it," Leo urged, desperate for answers. The man positioned himself just outside the glow of their headlights, fear etched deep across his face. "I'll tell you, but it won't be easy. And time is running out." Sarah exchanged a terrified glance with Emma, uncertainty churning between them. The answers they sought could lead them to a new understanding, or to their downfall. What would they find when they unraveled the mystery of the water? Would they uncover hope, or summon destruction? Only time would tell if they even had any left. The man's words hung in the air, thick and heavy, a tangible weight pressing down on Sarah. The darkness surrounding them seemed to listen, drawing them into its depths. "What are we dealing with? What curse?" she pressed, desperation creeping into her voice. The wild-eyed man hesitated, glancing nervously behind him into the shadows. "You have to understand," he began, breathing heavily. "This well, it's been forbidden for a reason. It draws its power from a source that shouldn't be disturbed. What power? Julia asked, her voice higher than usual. The urgency in her tone matched the racing of Sarah's heart, echoing the fear that gripped them all. The man motioned for them to come closer, his expression shifting from panic to a grim seriousness. Decades ago, the townsfolk relied on this well for water. But something sinister lurked beneath. Those who drank from it, they either vanished or returned changed. Not quite themselves. Changed how? Emma whispered, her voice trembling. The man's gaze darkened. People spoke of whispers, of shadows that followed them. The forest itself became restless. Eventually it was decided to seal it off, but the curse didn't die. It lingered. It lingers still. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled in the distance, vibrating through the ground like a warning bell. The friends instinctively huddled together, eyes wide with fear. "We need to leave," Emma said, glancing towards the trees where the sound came from. "We can't," Leo insisted, stepping closer to the man. "What do we do? You said you knew how to stop it. Tell us." The man laughed dryly, shaking his head. "I can't promise it can be stopped. The only way is to confront it, to face what lies below." Sarah felt her stomach twist. "Face it? How? What if it's already awake?" He looked at her then, wide-eyed. "Exactly. You've stirred it from its slumber, and it won't go quietly." Another growl echoed around them, closer this time, mingling with the sound of rustling leaves. Sarah's heartbeat quickened. Dawn was far off, and they were trapped in darkness with an unseen threat closing in. "We need a plan," Julia stated, though her voice quavered. "Gather anything sharp, anything you can use," Leo ordered, his tone demanding. "We need to protect ourselves." As they rummaged through their packs, Sarah felt frozen, the man's warning ringing in her mind. They had unwittingly unleashed something powerful. Moments passed like hours as they armed themselves with makeshift weapons, sticks, tools, anything that could serve as protection. "What do we do when it comes?" Emma's voice broke, panic seeping through her bravado. "Stay together," Leo replied, scanning the area, every rustle heightening the tension. "We don't let it divide us." The man's expression grew grim. "If you see it, don't look into its eyes. Can ensnare you, warp your mind." "Thanks for the heads up," Sarah muttered under her breath, the dread pooling in her stomach. As the darkness closed in, they huddled tight, the weight of the unknown pressing down around them. Just as the trees started swaying, a form materialized from the shadows, tall and hunched, the moonlight glinting off its dark fur. Fear surged within, immobilizing them as the creature stepped forward, a low rumble emanating from it. "Remember," the man whispered urgently. "Don't look into its eyes." But what if it meant their survival depended on seeing the creature for what it truly was? Would they find the strength they needed, or would the darkness swallow them whole? The creature loomed, a beast forged from nightmare and shadow, its breath heavy, filling the air with a stench like damp earth and decay. Each pulse of its presence surged through Sarah's veins, the instinct to run clawing at her, but her feet remained glued to the spot. "Stand firm," Leo shouted, breaking the spell of hesitation. He gripped a sharpened stick as if it could shield them from the horror ahead. "We can't let it break us apart." The man began to back away slowly, whispering, "You need to leave now before it senses your fear." But fear was slipping through their fingers like sand. Emma shivered beside Sarah, her eyes wide with terror, reflecting the creature's silhouette. Julia clutched her makeshift weapon tightly. "We're not leaving until we understand what it wants." "Understand?" The man barked a laugh, though it was tinged with madness. "You'll never understand a thing like this." The creature took another step forward. Its eyes, dark pools of oil, glistened in the waning moonlight. Sarah felt her throat tighten. She remembered the man's warning but wrestled with an instinct deeper than fear, a pull that urged her to look closer, to reveal the truth beneath the monstrous hide. "Sarah, don't," Leo warned, catching her eye just as she took a step forward. Something flickered in the creature's gaze, something more than hostility, a glimmer of pain hidden under layers of shadow. "Wait," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the rustle of leaves. "What if..." We can't let it trap us in our fear. With determination surging through her, Sarah forced herself to look deep into the creature's eyes. Time seemed to unravel, slowing to a crawl. In that instant, a vision flickered before her, a fading image of the townsfolk laughing, drinking from the well, thriving before the curse laid its claim. They were not victims of a wrathful spirit but transformed pieces of something larger. Shivers ran through Sarah as she grasped what it truly was. Crying for help, lost in sorrow. It was more than a beast. It was the pain of forgotten lives, caught in a cycle of despair. "It's trapped," she murmured, the realization washing over her like cold water, making her heart race with compassion. "Don't look away," Leo yelled, trying to pull her back. "I can't," she gasped, her heart aching for the creature. "Needs us." The creature paused, the growl shifting into something almost resembling a desperate plea. It lowered its massive head, the tension crackling like static. Here, in this moment, everything shifted. "Together," Julia shouted, gathering strength from the shared intensity of the group. "It needs us to face the truth, not just of its curse, but of our own." They huddled closely, weapons clutched like lifelines. Upon that bond, an unspoken understanding ignited, a pact larger than fear. Time hung on the cusp of transformation, the air teeming with energy. They could not let the darkness win. They had to confront the fear that had shrouded them, to give voice and power to the long-hidden truths. As they took a collective step forward, the creature's form shifted again, retreating ever so slightly, revealing depths of its misery. But the understanding was fragile, and still, the chill of the night wrapped tighter around them. "What's next?" Emma breathed, barely audible above the night sounds. But Sarah felt the answer resonate within her. Recognition, connection, and the hope that maybe together, they could rewrite the tale that had been woven in shadows for too long. Suddenly, a crack resonated like thunder, splitting the night air, a branch snapping under unseen pressure. Shouting echoed in the darkness behind them. "Something else is coming," Leo warned, his voice grim, apprehension thickening the air. Fear flashed in Sarah's eyes. The darkness wasn't finished with them yet. Who or what else would they have to face? Just as the echo faded, a rustle broke through the silence and a chilling wind swept across the clearing. Sarah's heart raced faster, pounding against her chest like a war drum. She could feel the group's tension, each breath holding a clamor of fear and determination. "Stay together," Julia urged, trying to hold onto the fragile sense of unity they had forged. The crowd braced themselves, eyes darting towards the source of the noise. Then, out from the underbrush, another form emerged, smaller than the creature before but equally daunting. A haggard man stumbled into view, eyes wild, clothes tattered. He looked like a ghost, his skin pale and skin glistened with sweat, indicating a frantic energy. "No, no," he gasped, stumbling toward them. "You have to run. It's not safe. The darkness is here." "Who are you?" asked Emma, stepping forward. "What do you know about it?" The man's gaze flitted between the creature and the group, and Sarah could see the tremors in his hands. "I was one of you once, part of the town. The curse, it's not just a monster. It's alive. It feeds on fear and despair. Consumes us." His voice cracked, breaking under the weight of his own memories. "Then it must be stopped," Leo replied, the resolve thick in his tone. He tightened his grip on his stick, stepping protectively closer to Sarah and Emma. "Stopped? You don't understand," the man shouted, panic flooding his words. "Looking into its eyes is a trap. It draws you in. You'll be lost like I was." But Sarah felt a heat rising within her, a clarity in the chaotic storm swirling around them. "No, it's not a trap. I felt its pain. It needs help." The beast before them shifted slightly, responding to Sarah's fervent assertion. The man shook his head in disbelief. "You don't know what you're saying, do you?" Julia countered, her voice steady. "You were consumed with fear and that made you run. We faced our fear, and it's changed everything." The air thickened with the weight of their confrontation. It felt as if the darkness itself held its breath, listening. But the haggard man's face twisted in desperation. You don't know what it's capable of. It's always watching and waiting. It will take one of you if you let it. As if in response, the shadows around them pulsed dangerously. A low growl rumbled in the beast's throat. Yet for a fleeting moment, those dark eyes flickered with something softer, a hint of hope. A sound erupted from the woods, sharp and shrill, shattering the dawn of understanding. "We don't have time," Leo shouted, glancing back toward the darkness. "Go," the man screamed, urgency flooding his tone as he took a step back, wavering as if the weight of his own past dragged him into shadows. "No," Sarah yelled, reaching out, her heart breaking. "We can't just leave him." A choice loomed before them. Sarah took a breath, feeling the swirling emotions within her, anchoring her resolve. They either ran from what they didn't understand, or they fought for the answers hidden in the shadows. Together, she decided, the word firm on her tongue. But would they unite against the overwhelming tide? The creature shifted once more, eyes aflame with yearning. In that pivotal moment, with the darkness creeping closer and the screams of the past echoing louder, one question surged through Sarah's mind. Would they remain lost in fear, or could love reshape the legend their town had suffered for too long? And as the ground trembled beneath them, only one truth remained certain. They would have to choose before it was too late. The air hung heavy with tension as both beast and man awaited a decision like lightning poised to strike. Sarah felt the hearts of her friends beating all around her, sinking in a rhythm of shared determination. The creature loomed larger, its dark silhouette stark against the dimming light. But even in the face of fear, hope flickered like starlight trying to break free from the night. Together, she shouted again, her voice rising above the chaos, an authoritative anchor in the storm. The bond they had forged, the unity of struggle and strength, pulsed through her veins. This was their moment to reclaim not only their town, but their lives, their history, a history shrouded in darkness too long. The haggard man trembled, his eyes darting between the looming threat and the unity forming behind Sarah, the warmth of their camaraderie enveloping them like a shield. "You don't understand what you're facing," he shrieked, fear spilling over in his words. But Sarah stood firm, aiming to connect, rather than retreat. "We do understand," she countered, shifting her focus to the creature that stood before them, an embodiment of their collective fears. "It's not about fear. It's about healing." She stepped closer, Emma beside her. The growls faded slightly, echoing as if the creature were listening. The wild-eyed man backed away, still caught in his own nightmares but also sensing a shift. A spark of something inside him that hadn't flickered out completely. "It's about trusting," Emma added, her voice steady as steel. "Trusting each other and trusting that facing the truth helps us rebuild." A stirring flickered through the air, rippling like a fresh breeze sweeping away old leaves. The creature hesitated, its growls receding further, as if caught between two worlds, one of pain and one of hope. "You can choose, just as we can." Julia stepped forward, holding her weapon not as a tool of fear but like a badge of courage. "This is about more than just you and the curse. This is about our families, our community. We're not here to destroy, we're here to heal." The bridge of understanding deepened in that space, pulling them all forward in a silent pact. "You may have lived as a monster," Sarah said softly, locking gazes with the creature. "But we see you, and we won't abandon you. We can help." The creature's growl transformed into a whimper, its eyes gleaming with a mixture of recognition and longing. The man's shoulders sagged, the weight of his turmoil momentarily easing. "But what if it comes for us?" he asked, uncertainty still clinging to his voice. "It might," Sarah acknowledged, taking a step closer to the creature, feeling that shared breath of anguish. "But we won't face it alone. We'll stay united." In that moment, the world around them shifted, colors blending into a kaleidoscope of emotion. The creature reared its head, every shadow casting a haunting glow, revealing depths of sorrow and loss. "Together," Emma exclaimed again, and one by one, the others declared their unity, affirming the power of their shared commitment. The creature paused, confusion ceding to understanding, And in the flickering light of transformation, it stepped back, revealing a new path, the path of illumination. The haggard man shuddered, the clarity piercing through the veil of his own fears. "If you're willing, then perhaps there is hope," he whispered, vulnerability lacing his words. As if the very essence of the woods heard their fervent prayers, the growl changed to a low, resonant hum, a promise of what could be. Sarah felt the swell of courage rise within her. Let us face the truth. We're not just fighting for our safety, but for a community that deserves to rise again. For you and for us all. Together, they stepped closer, hand in hand, forming a living bridge of solidarity. The creature began to dissolve in the moonlight, revealing not just its true form, but the fragmented history of their town. A history rich with despair yet lined with threads of resilience. As the shadows started to lift, casting layers of understanding in a dance of shadows and light, the path stood clear ahead. They could reclaim the water, but more importantly, they could reclaim their hearts. "Let us rewrite the story," Sarah declared, and those words hung heavy yet hopeful in the air. Each member of the group nodded, finding themselves anew, shedding fears they had held tightly for too long. Behind them, the once dark well shimmered, not as a vessel of dread, but a source of revitalization marked by truth. As they took a step forward, breaths intertwined with resolve, the quiet of the moment held the weight of old pain and the promise of new beginnings. Together, their journey, sparked by a gathering of hearts, was not merely about the water, but the trust that solidified this transformed community. And with resilience stitching together their broken pieces, they prepared to write a new chapter, one where they reclaimed their story and their lives. If you're inspired by this journey of courage and transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. I want to hear your reactions and feelings about this ending. Comment below. Don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.